That's what I play games, writer words, recorder videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Bye Weekly Behind-the-Scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Sabra, or Toro, this video is not meant for you. It'll be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with an invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson for our campaign. We use Roll20. For streaming, I use OBS Studio. I don't think I've actually formally announced this yet, but we're actually not doing D&D this Friday. So you all who are watching this before Friday, I guess are the second thing. Obviously, I talked to my players about it first, but this was kind of a semi-last minute thing. I think I mentioned it to patrons on the Monday update, and then about a possibility of us taking the vacation. And the unfortunate thing is we just aren't able to coordinate our vacations with my player groups. As much as we're able to come together and do D&D every Friday for the most part for years and years and years is amazing. Vacations, not so much. I think we had Raymond out last week, Reese the week before that, and now I'll be out this just for a really quick lake house getaway for the vacation, taking a half day on Friday and getting out, coming back on Sunday, kind of a deal. But yeah, no D&D on Friday, but still doing all my usual stuff this week, including the crafting streams, which means I'll be getting ahead of stuff with the crafting, because I'll have this week of crafting and next week of crafting before we actually do our next session. And I've already feel like I've talked a bunch about the Styes and kind of what's coming next. I still expect it to actually take us 2 more sessions. Also, we still have to interview or interrogate the Mr. Dory, because we took him out at the end of last session, and then they'll get some information, they'll long rest, and then they'll actually go to the temple and deal with the whole temple thing, which I think is going to take us I think the whole thing will take 2 sessions. I'm hoping we can get all the way through the Mind Flayer boss battle at the end of the next session, and then we can do the Kraken boss, the juvenile Kraken boss battle / like all the falling action, because it really helps being able to have the end of all that, have the boss battle at the start of a session, I guess, basically. Although the Mind Flayer battle is also going to be a big boss battle, so it really depends on the timing. I could see us even having to stop like halfway through that battle and then pick it up maybe afterwards. So that's the one tricky thing about having the shorter, like 2-hour sessions, is when you have too many battles packed into an area, it can be difficult to pace all that together, because fighting, of course, takes a long time. But we really need to start getting ahead and thinking about what comes next after the Styes, which is probably what I'm going to primarily be talking about, even though I'm still labeling this as Crafting Deep the Styes. I think hopefully that just helps people know, like, at what point was I talking about, like, at what point in the campaign was this crafting session, right? So right now we're still in the Styes area, and I think we will be for another 2 sessions. But I'm going to probably be looking ahead quite a bit, because we are, I think, going to be officially moving away from any more Ghosts of Saltmarsh content. I've included 4 modules from Ghosts of Saltmarsh in the campaign, and I even drew elements from a 5th one, Danger at Dunwater, with the whole kind of combining it with the final enemy. Kind of like basically a session or 2 before that was drawn from that, although we didn't actually use the dungeon map at all. But I think that's going to do it for the Ghost of Saltmarsh portion, because the rest of it should all be Call from the Deep, and including any maybe open, I was going to say open world areas, which is kind of what the 3rd chapter is, and kind of what I'm refamiliarizing myself with, and just trying to figure out how I want to structure basically the rest of the campaign. I'm totally okay with, at one point, I think in every campaign you reach that classic like point of no return, finale, final act, whatever you want to call it, where the party has no real choice in terms of where they're going to go. They're already in the final area. In this case, that doesn't actually happen until they reach the Purple Rocks area, which has like boom, boom, boom in terms of different areas right on top of each other. Purple Rocks being kind of a creepy Lovecraftian island thing where everybody's a Kraken Society cultist. It's basically Kraken Society headquarters. And of course, it's all been co-opted by the new Mind Flayer regime. And then that leads to a temple, and that temple leads to, I think, Escarl, which are the ruins, where actually the Elderbrain and Slarperthel currently are. So all of that is going to be the real finale. But before that, in order to even find that location, they have to get to Tentrix in the Nelanther Isles, which they already know the location of from previous. What was it? Ned, I think, told them the location, but also teased the fact that they won't be able to reach it, and I'm gonna kind of build on that and maybe throw a soft kind of roadblock up there to facilitate the party getting access to the Nelanther, because I think it'd be, I like the idea, and a lot of open world video games do this. It's really like boss dungeon design, where like, all right, you know where the boss room is, but of course it's like locked by a boss key that you have to find, or you have to like activate a bunch of other things first. I always like that kind of puzzly aspect of a, you know, like a classic Zelda dungeon design, I guess, where it's like, hey, here's all these different, you know, you have this dungeon, there's all these different areas you can go to except for the boss rooms. You have to do a bunch of the dungeon, essentially all the dungeon, before you can actually unlock the boss, and that creates a nice, you know, finale climax to it. And that's something I like seeing in a lot of dungeon designs, and it helps kind of solve the problem of having the party stumble upon it too early. I'm not worried about the party stumbling upon the finale too early here, but I would like to maybe throw up another little, you know, boss key gate thing before they can actually get into the Nelanther Isles. And for that, I think I'm going to borrow the same concept of the Mind Flayer generals, which were included in Call from the Deep, essentially Zelix 4, when they crash landed on the Isles. There were 4 Mind Flayer named like mini bosses, stronger than the average Mind Flayer, and they are the, you know, the mini bosses, the ones who run everything and work directly for the Elder Brain. One of them was on the island of Gunderlin. The party met him, but he was able to escape. And then I'm putting one in the Styes, which they will then battle in the Styes and battle to the death. Because something I think Call from the Deep failed to do was actually put more of those Mind Flayers out in the wild and allow the party to actually defeat the mini bosses along the way, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know if I'll get a chance to put another one somewhere. Maybe I'll put one of them down in the Nelanther Isles. I don't want to take away from Sea King Tentrix as the main boss, however, so I'm not quite sure if I want to do that. I'll have to figure out if I want to change that up or how I want to do, but that would be the other spot to do it. Or I could always put somebody, at least one of them, on the surface, like in actual Purple Rock is probably the best idea. Put one of them to where he's like running the cult on the surface, and then you can put the final 1 or 2 down in the actual final dungeon area, which is where they're all supposed to be anyway. So that'll spread them out. So I was thinking, well, I like the idea of having to defeat mini bosses to, you know, before making it to the boss. And then I thought, well, Tentrix is kind of a boss. I mean, I guess he's technically a mini boss, not the final boss, but he is like the boss of like the whole Black Armada thing. And he's got mini bosses. He's got a bunch of cool named pirate lords below him. I can't ever find this picture. I guess if you click on them, they show the pictures. There's a nice lineup picture in the actual book that has like this artwork of them all put together. And they're all cool, like monstrous creatures, which I was teasing before about what Tentrix first like mutinied and kind of grew into his own powerful captain, is that he specifically took all of these more exotic creatures, I guess, non-humanoid or non-humans, like non-standard races from the player's handbook or all the other things, and created a, you know, crew from them, and then each of them kind of rose the ranks and became probably captains in their own right, and now they all run their own ship. So I thought, okay, what about a cool thing and a chance to give the players an interesting choice would be to let them take, basically say, in order to get to the Nelanther Isles, you have to have some MacGuffin that is given to all of the main captains in the Black Armada, and that's what allows them to sail back and forth into the Nelanther Isles unmolested. and I don't know what that thing is. It's a magic rock, or maybe it's like a tattoo or something that they've all got, and then the party can then choose which of these pirate lords they want to go after and take out, and then acquire said thing, and then that will allow them to actually reach the Lanther Isles, and also tease the fact that like they should be having to deal with like a major, captain under Sea King Tentrix, and then Tentrix himself, of course, is going to be at the floating pirate layer. So now I'm kind of concocting, and I think this will be a great way to use some of these extra locations that are included in all the way back in chapter 3. We're technically still in chapter 3, I guess, because chapter 4 of the 5 chapter Call from the Deep doesn't actually happen until they make it to the Nelanther Isles and Tentrix's lair. So we're all of this, like the Styes, Wagon Stronghold, all of that has been in and really the flying the pirate moat thing they did that was near Neverwinter. All of that has still been in chapter 3. So I guess I'm still extending a little bit of chapter 3, but I thought it'd be cool and a good excuse to use some of these locations and a chance to fight a cool, like, bad guy pirate captain. So that was my idea. Now I'm trying to actually marry the pirate captain mini boss into each locate, or it doesn't have to be a location. It could just be like this pirate captain's out at sea somewhere, and the whole thing is you just have to like hunt them down, and it becomes like a big naval thing, right? We just go full master and commander. I mean, this module should probably have at least one thing where it's like, all right, we're gonna have a big ship battle maybe far away, and followed by a close-up ship battle, and do all that, even though our ship has got all this upgraded stuff, but that ship's got upgraded stuff. That should probably be one of them, at least, is that they're not somewhere unique. They're just out patrolling the waters, and that's the whole challenge. The challenge for me as a DM, of course, is giving the player options. Giving the players options means I don't know if I should prep all of them or just have all these vague ideas, and then once they decide on one of them, then I actually dive in and just prepare that one. Although maybe they'll be like, well, we want to, maybe the party's like, well, we want to take out all those captains. Like, that just seems like a good idea. And then I'll be like, yeah, you could do that, I guess. Nothing would be stopping them from doing that. They would only need one. The way I would word the quest line, which I think they're going to get from Captain Callus, I gave them the, let's see, there's a rumor section, which it's funny, I only remember to actually show all the players this a few sessions ago, that Captain Callus mentioned the island of Mintarn is a safe port for all types, including pirates, should you need a place to dock. So I will basically hint to the party that, like, hey, you should check out the island of Mintarn to get some more, just to meet with some people that might know what's going on, and essentially just kind of nudge them and look at the map. Like, it's right there. It's literally like it's the closest thing they have. And that's the one thing I know to gently guide my party, lead my proverbial horse to the proverbial watering hole, is have it be the closest thing to them. So if they can go to Mintarn, then I can have Captain Callus be there as a recurring NPC who's got information. They still owe Callus money, by the way, something like 200 gold pieces, which he will certainly want to be paid. But he can give them the whole skinny on, like, hey, I know, I'm here. I've been doing some, ear to the ground about how Tentrix's whole thing works, and I've been gathering information because I think if anybody's got a chance to deal with him, then you all do. And he's going to be the one to give them essentially the quest that even though this location, where he generally is, all you know is that he's in the Nelanther Isles, and the Nelanther Isles is a huge area. In fact, I think this may be to scale in terms of miles. Yeah. I mean, it's about 200 miles, maybe more, 200 to 250 miles. And then, about 200 miles. That's a pretty good stretch of area right there. And it's supposed to be really dangerous, crawling with pirates and monsters and, all kinds of stuff that people generally stay away from. And maybe the rumor is that it's guarded by a giant sea beast, which in this case will be the zombie dragon turtle. And in order to, and perhaps, again, there's some kind of marking. Maybe it's something you put on the ship, some kind of certain design or something, or it's an item you have. I haven't determined what that is. technically really matter. Um, oh, hey, Mike, later. uh, but I think that way they'll need to get one of those captains, take them out, and then with that item, object, thing, whatever, they can then make it to the Nether Isles. I do still want to kind of hit them with the zombie dragon turtle, so that would kind of make me bummed if I did that to myself. So the other thing they could do, I guess I could use it as a different blocker, but it feels like if I'm specifically giving the quest, like, hey, if you take out one of these guys, then you can make it in the Nether Isles. Or maybe it's a question of maybe that object just lets you, maybe the pirate layer moves because it's floating technically, and the item allows the party to find the layer. Maybe it has a way of like pulsing or something, like a hot cold mechanism when you get close, so it allows you to reach the place without just searching around lost. And so maybe it doesn't necessarily protect you from the dragon turtle, but then what does? Because that'd be a way for the bad guys to make it in and out. So I will have to think about that one, because I did like the idea of it being guarded by this monstrous sea beast and the party having to deal with that. Just classic fantasy adventure thing is on the water and you have to deal with a giant sea monster. That seems like something I definitely want to do. Lazy DM. Are you going to have them sacrificing children to the Kraken still at Purple Rocks? I haven't looked at Purple Rocks too heavily in a while. I definitely want to keep it the creepy Lovecraftian, like everybody's a cultist by then. I think it'll be less shocking for the party, because the party, by the time they know all this information, and they'll be higher level, they'll be like, all right, this place is probably pretty dark and evil. I guess what they don't know is like literally everybody's going to be like Kraken Society at this village. But I also want to make it distinct from the Styes, where the Styes is kind of a crime-ridden, mundane evil, if that makes sense, like one that we would all relate to, I guess. Purple Rocks is going to be like a supernatural evil. Like, it's just everybody is like super in on this cult, and there's like evil, nasty creatures who live under the surface, and it's just real nasty. So I think it'll be distinct from the Styes. Yeah, Magic Compass, basically, Rufus. That maybe takes you directly to... So even though they know like the general location, that would be like another thing I can throw up to the party, is like, well, you still need some way of actually finding, what's it called? Tentrix's floating layer. And yes, I'll be having to acquire. I did find, there's map art out there. Thankfully, Call from the Deep is popular enough. It's got its own Discord channel where you can find people who have made full color art of some of the Call from the Deep material. However, I've also found other maps from other artists who have drawn stuff this is a good example of one that's very similar to this, that actually is kind of a cooler looking map. So I may end up redoing the Tentrix's layer in my campaign to follow that other map art. We're not quite ready to talk about that yet, but I was inspired. It's from Seafoot Games, which is one of the map art Patreons I follow, and they have done some fabulous artwork. I've used their artwork here on the channel in the past, and it's always been really, really well received, and I like it a lot. So it's one that's very, they don't do official. It's all original artwork that they do, but they'll do stuff that's like one of them was literally like a bunch of pirate ships lashed together with like docks and stuff, and it's like a floating pirate layer. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That Earth Moat, for example, that I used for the Pirate Skyhold quest arc was from Seafoot Games as well, and that just happened to be another map that was like exactly what I was looking for in that case. So the Pirate Lords, there's a couple that are given as an option, 3 that are kind of monstrous creatures, and then I think 1 that's just a human. I want to use at least 3, I think, is always a good number for options. I could include all 4. I guess the Frost Giant's another one, but the Frost Giant is specifically guarding Tendrix's lair at Driftwood Docks. It becomes kind of another mini boss they have to deal with. I don't know if they're supposed to be sailing their ship through here. I don't actually recall, or if they're just... But yeah, constantly patrolled by pirates. In charge of the defense is Jarl Bluebeard, a brutal frost giant on the verge of insanity. Has a habit of hurling rocks. So I think that'll be... So in other words, they'll always have to deal with him. So I'm not going to include him as one of the options because he'll be back at the base. But our options for sprinkling our evil Black Armada pirate captains are Captain Scummer, who is a green slot. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm actually given crew for any of these captains. I'll have to look up. I know there were suggestions somewhere in Call from the Deep that talks about, here are some random encounters you can throw at the party. If they have... I don't know if it's this map right here. This is the actual random encounter one, but there's one that talks about ship enemies specifically. Let's see if I scroll through real quick if I can see any hyperlinks. So many cultists, Anticore, merchants, merfolk, NPCs in the water, pirate ship. Appendix D is what I'm looking for. Gives examples of other ships' potential captains. Mixture of bandits, thugs, swashbucklers, and berserkers. Because you don't want to go too crazy with the stat level. The party are going to be much higher level, though. But I think it's fun to use just a bunch of different kind of stat blocks. And the Black Armada would be like the supreme best of the best in terms of their stockpile of crew. 20% chance to crew the ship prepared with Sea Spawn and Deep Scions. They're there on behalf of the Kraken Society. Yeah, so I wish you hyperlinked me to Appendix D. Where's Appendix D? If Appendix D is actually... I think I remember trying to find this before and struggled to find it. They talk about handouts, creatures. It's not at the end, is it? No. It's under adventure. No, I don't think they have appendices. Two. All of those. I could find it in the PDF, but I was hoping to find it here. Where do they talk about? See if they do anything here. It does link to the different creatures. I think I found it like once before and then never again. They talk about that appendix. Damn it. I don't know. Because yeah, this is technically Appendix A, random encounters, but obviously it's not labeled Appendix A. If I search for Call from the Deep, can I find it in the compendium? Aha, 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 aha. This might be the smart way of doing it. There's the ships. Okay, that's not quite the information, so let's go random ships and crew. Okay, that's just got a giant tables. Okay, here we go. Well, sort of. This just gives you a D100 list of possible creatures that could make up a ship that are themed, I guess. Human thugs and berserkers, berserkers and gladiators, goblins, goblin boss, gnome commoners and swashbuckler, bugbears, bugbear chief, dwarf guards, dwarf noble. Okay, well that's semi-helpful, I guess. But it'd be up to me just to use kind of whatever mix of creatures that would be interesting. Make sure there's at least one spellcaster on each ship. That's what really helps. So I think the example ships and crew. Yeah, so this... Oh, you have to click each one individually. This has a set of the different encounters. There we go. So like this one is a caravel with 15 human bandits, captained by a bandit captain wearing wielding a scimitar of speed. So I think that's the one I actually sent at the party during the Neverwinter battle because Mac's using that scimitar of speed. Burning skulls at the Minotaur one. Yeah, Minotaur skeletons captained by a necromancer. Flaming Legion. So none of these are necessarily Black Armada. Some of them maybe. 20 human flaming fist guards and veterans. Yorubieg's spleen. Is this like Koatoa or something? Goblins. Okay, don't think it's worth running goblins as a piratey crew for this high level. 60 guards and 20 veterans. That would be crazy to have that many people on a giant warship, but that'd be pretty cool. If the party did have to come across, there wasn't like a location, but it was just one like ship they had to go after, it would be neat if that ship was like way bigger and way better equipped. I mean, look at that. Multiple ballista, mangonel, rams, Scorpios, side shears. And you could just run it with, like, yeah, gladiator, veterans. Maybe get some of those ship wizard stat blocks on there. On the other hand, the party would also have all of their NPC allies to help them. Or was that? That was the... No, that wasn't the Osprey. Berserkers. That's another good one to use. Pretty simple stat block. Rusty Harpoon. Sounds like a sex position. Thugs, half ogres. And just a thug captain. Most of these aren't very high level is what I'm seeing. Guards, commoners, and a noble. Nor do they necessarily have to be battles, I guess, for some of these. 50 priests and a storm lord, a war priest of Talos with a javelin of lightning. That's basically what one of the captains is, though, which is the storm maiden also wields a javelin of lightning. Then Water's Crown. Guard, swashbuckler with a pet flying snake. Yeah, so all these are... Most of these are pretty low level. Okay. Well, so I'd have to come up with my own crew that they have. So Captain Scummer is a green slot. Tentrix has the control gem, so Scummer is just completely loyal. I don't know what the CR rating is for some of these creatures. Where is Scummer? I've got too many windows open. CR 8, which is pretty solid for a boss fight. Has Fireball, Fear, Whirl Flame, a Staff. Okay. It's all pretty solid. So that's a neat boss guy right there, Captain Scummer. Desecratus Profanus, which is a Spirit Naga with an eye patch, which is kind of amazing. Fresh out of Chult, apparently. 14-foot long Spirit Naga. Who's captain of a ship. That's pretty cool. Also a high-level spellcaster, CR8, Dominate Person, Blight, Dimension Door, Lightning Bolt, Hold Person. So that's pretty awesome right there. And then the third one is Dirge, which is a Sahuagin Baron. Now, unfortunately, the party has had their fill of Sahuagin for sure for a lifetime. So I could replace him. I love his idea, which is he's born with the typical Baron mutations. So he's got 4 arms, but instead of fighting, he wields wands in each arm or each hand, I guess. Is it supposed to say what he wields? Wears a long wizard's robe. Wields a wand in each hand, shooting spells at incredible speed. That seems like a really fun idea for a 4-armed creature. All these creatures have artwork from Call from the Deep as well. So where does it talk about that? Special equipment. He carries a wand of binding, a wand of fear, a wand of fireballs, and a wand of wonder. He's a spellcaster for the purpose of tuning to wands. You can use an action to expend 1 charge from up to 2 wands, triggering the effects of them simultaneously. So this 4-armed dude can shoot 2 wands at a time. That's a really, really fun idea for a stat block, which I guess he can... yeah, so binding is, I think, hold person, fear, fireballs. I don't remember what Wand of Wonder does, and nor does his stat block seem to know, because it doesn't have it as a spell in here. But all 3 of these creatures are very fun and decent, like mini boss, I think, stats, especially if you put them among all of their crew and members. And then the 4th one is the Storm Maiden. I haven't decided if I want to use her or yet. She mainly just has a bunch of, mainly because she has a bunch of magic items, although I just realized that Dirge also is covered in wands. So if you're going to fight Dirge, you have to be prepared for your party to acquire all of these fucking wands, I just realized. The Storm Maiden is, reminds me of somebody out of Skyrim. Kind of a Viking warrior, and she wields a javelin of lightning and an arrow catching shield, patrolling around the area. So those are the named pirates. All of them have their own artwork. Yeah, the General Grievous of Wizards. You're right, Refus. That's awesome. She even looks like she came out of Skyrim. So I'll have to decide. I love the idea of basically telling the party ahead of time through Callus, like, hey, here are his tension, because you're already starting to meet the Mind Flayer's top generals. There's like it's a whole MLM scheme, I guess, because there's the Elder Brain, then the Mind Flayers, which have all co-opted the Kraken Society. Then they all have their generals, and then they were helping run like the Swagan and the Kraken Society and all that. And then you've got Tentrix, who is also directly a worshiper of Slarkrethel, and thus has become an unwitting worshiper and patsy of the Mind Flayers. And he's got his whole Black Armada, and he's got his team of captains below him. And it was all of these things together that made up the big, Call from the Deep Armada, I suppose. So I like the idea of the party getting a chance to defeat and first of all get the intel from Callus about all of these different captains, and then I think Callus would go ahead and just tell them like, hey, I also know like the whereabouts of all of these captains, to give the party further, just skipping ahead to the fun parts, I guess. Like, we've done investigation stuff, and like I'm totally fine with them getting all that information from Callus at Mintarn. The only thing I could do is maybe have Callus like ask them to do a quest first for something for him before they do all this, but it may just be like, hey, just pay me what you owe me and then pay me some extra and I will tell you. He'll go ahead and say, it's the classic, well, I'll tell you that you need to get one of these guys in order to get safe travel to Nelanther Isles and actually find Tendric's lair, but I happen to know where they all are, and grease my palms, and I can tell you their current whereabouts, where they should be. I know one of them. I'm pretty sure I want to use the adventure location of Omen's Isle. I don't know if I'll literally put it in Omen's Isle. It seems like the whole Moonshae Isles just has its own stuff going on. So I feel like, I don't know, if I put anything here, I'd have to start like running multiple things, and I want to maybe just stick to the Sea of Swords here. So it may just be that I put all the adventuring locations kind of around this area. The other thing I don't want to do is have the party have to go all the way over this, open. I'm not a video game where I'm running like random encounters and doing all that. It just doesn't really excite me too much. I do want to keep them in this general area, probably between like Waterdeep and Candlekeep-ish, so they don't have to feel like they're going way out of their way, and they have like an even choice between all these different regions. But the Omen's Isle adventure location was one that really stood out to me as one of the cooler little just mini dungeons too. These are really small sites that you can probably do in a single session, but this one was already set up because it featured the Kraken Society in the midst of trying to get a magic item from this location, and the party can arrive, and essentially I can run it as is, but just replace the Kraken Society who are invading this adventure location with one of the captains from that pirate ship. And I believe it's the island, and again, I can move this wherever I need to. Omen's Isle is controlled by Fomorians. The current ruler is an Etten. And there is... So first the party would have to get there, which I guess is still maybe guarded by Fomorians, but also it seems like the Fomorians are locked in combat with Chuls, who've been sent as a distraction by the Kraken Society. So I may just, if I were to run this slightly differently, I would probably have the Fomorians just be like dead already. They were killed by whichever captain I want to put there. And then access the cairn via subterranean stream and hoping to plunder its treasures. And then the party can make their way down there. And I think they actually come in, the party comes in one way, and I think the enemies come in another way, which is a little bit distracting. The actual item is a giant Slayer Greatsword, which seems like it'd be cool for Gottwald, although they don't fight too many actual giants. Obviously, Jarl Frostbeard is kind of a mini boss coming up, but this isn't like Storm King's Thunder, you know. So I may change the concept. I do like the idea of it being a cool big weapon, or maybe one that like giants wield or something. So maybe it does damage against anybody who's not big. I could make it the opposite of a giant slayer sword. It's a giant slayer. It's a giant slayer sword, like one that doesn't slay giants, but like giants would wield. So it's like extra big. Maybe it just does extra damage die. But you can only wield it if you're large. Oh, that'd be a cool thing. And thus Gottwald would really only be like, otherwise you have like disadvantage or something. But it's like specifically if you're enlarged like Gottwald, then he can use it as if he were a giant. That could be kind of a spiffy idea. He's already got the Anchor Axe, which is very powerful, but I feel like just having a weapon he specifically could use while in big, or maybe only wants to use while in big end. Yeah, James is suggesting like a Frost Brand or Flame Tongue. I could definitely try to reflavor something and give it that kind of enlarged. I'm picturing literally, what's the Zelda Ocarina of Time where they have Bigoron sword, right? Where it's like you have this giant fucking sword, and it's kind of awkward to use. You can't use your shield with it because it's just two-handed only. So that might be what I end up doing there. Anyway, so it's guarded by Berserker spirits, which is pretty cool. There's a ghostly Berserkers appear. There's some traps around here. The river, I think, yeah, that is where... Which I don't know why. I guess maybe there's still Fomorians guarding the entrance, but like the other... Yeah, the captain's making their way in. Oh, interesting. This is already the Storm Maiden. Well, that's interesting. I guess I didn't read this one twice. One of the captains is already here and plundering the ruins. Okay. Well, shoot. Maybe I'll just use that. The figures are 5 Kraken Society spies led by the Storm Maiden. So she's got the spy stat block as her crewmates. That's a little weaker than I think that I'm looking for. They're searching for the magic items buried with Iron Hand and are making their way toward Area I-5. Oh, is the sword not even the final one? When they're attacked by a cloaker, the characters don't intervene. The cloaker kills one of the spies before being dispatched. And then 5 is the tomb. Unless already encountered Area I-4, the Krakenar burst into this chamber from the west. The characters arrive, which is, I guess, what they refer to as a Krakenar. The Storm Maiden's crew head to the sarcophagus and try to flee with the treasure. The bridge is magically trapped with a flesh to stones. I just love this. Dungeon's got all these like fucking traps and shit. When a creature walks onto the bridge, which is not what you expect a bridge to do. The lid of the sarcophagus can be lifted with successful EC-15. Sword Wraith Commander. So you got another little crazy fight here. Wow, Sword Wraith Commander is a CR8. Okay. And then the tomb contains 3,000 gold pieces. A folding boat with the dragon figurehead that cannot sink, even when reduced to 0 hit points, and a suit of adamantine scale mail. Hammer of Thunderbolts is kind of weapon for giants in the DMG. Oh, okay. I'll look that one up. So I love this adventure location. I was looking for an excuse to use it, and that's why I was partly inspired by like, oh, maybe I could just follow, which I forgot it was a Storm Maiden, but I could put one of the captains here and just say that that Captain Callus has heard that one of the captains was dispatched to go loot this tomb, and he can even point it to, maybe it's just one of these nondescript isles or something. There's supposedly a well-guarded tomb of some ancient hero buried on an island, that he thinks they've been sent to plunder that tomb, and maybe the island is, I can still keep the whole Fomorian thing on there. So I love that as one of the locations the party could do, and it seems like it's got a bunch of cool like traps and enemies to fight. Certainly, we can do a little bit of socializing with the captain, but probably mainly just fighting, and then some really good treasure too. Look up that hammer. Is it like just Thor's hammer? Is it called a hammer? Let's see, hammer. Hammer of Thunderbolts, yeah. Legendary. Oh, geez. You gain +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic weapon. You must be wearing a belt of giant strength and gauntlets of ogre power to attune to this weapon. That's hilarious. It's going to be a set item. So I can use a version of this and maybe change it to where you must be literally this size. Attunement ends if you take off either of those items or you attune to this weapon and holding it. Your strength score increases by 4 and can exceed 20, but not 30. When you roll a 20 on an attack roll made with this weapon against a giant, the giant must succeed on DC 17 at Constitution saving throw or die. So it's also anti-giant. Spend 1 charge, make a range attack with the hammer. Hurling is if at the thrown property with a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet. The attack hits, the hammer unleashes a thunderclap on about to 300 feet. Target every creature in 30 feet of must succeed on DC 17 con save, be stunned until the end of your next turn. Okay, so you can just hurl the hammer and stun people in an AoE. That's pretty cool. Yeah, heavy. Small creatures with disadvantaged attack rolls with heavy weapons. So what I would do is change whatever... I just like this idea now of having it be large. It would be two-handed, but it would have like the extra heavy, which is medium creatures or smaller have disadvantage on attack rolls with extra heavy weapons. Because the idea that Gottwald can specifically embiggen into the large size and thus would not have disadvantage. That's true. He does want some good punchy gloves, doesn't he? I almost need to look at like monk weapons for Gottwald. At force damage to punch attacks. He's already got ways to do. I mean, just damage would be nice, but he's already got good knockback things. The weird thing is, I feel like with Gottwald, his build, like his subclass is so powerful, it kind of gives him whatever stuff he wants to do already. So I don't know what kind of magic items he would still want. And actually, I think to me, any magic items, if I were Gottwald's player, I would want magic items that short up my weaknesses at this point. Instead of giving me more of what I can already do well, which he does do well, is he needs shit that's like, resistance to like charm and frighten effects or magic resistance, advantage on wisdom saving throws, like that kind of shit is what really fucks him up. So if I ever come across any of that stuff, that would be, I think, things that he would definitely want to grab. But I love this location. I really want to use it. I think there have been maps done for this location. I don't think I'll put it in Omen's Isle, but I can certainly put it, like I said, on any of these smaller islands and kind of run it pretty similarly to what it's like. And the idea, that's how the party learns of the location, is through Callus telling them, hey, one of the captains is here trying to plunder this loot. And sure enough, they're there in one location, and the party enters another location, and then they kind of meet each other. So the bad guys are coming in this way in I4, where there's a river here, and then the heroes can make their way here and even do these kind of side rooms first. And then by the time they make it to 5, probably have the bad guys like emerging at the same time and have just a funny, scene where it's classic Indiana Jones, right? There's like fucking Nazis in the temple that you're also in, and you got to deal with the Nazis. So I like that one a lot for one of the captain locations and get the party over there. The other ones that I had, what else did I have written down? Narino was one of them, which is right here. Narino is the ancient, they say it's in like an old merfolk city, but the actual location is just like a single underground building or something. Maybe a castle. Yeah, abandoned merfolk city south of Mintarn. And then merfolk left, abandoned it, and at some point a coffin dropped off a ship and contained a vampire who was able to adapt to the underwater environment and fed voraciously on the merfolk, turned the city into her lair. But when you hear underwater city, you're like, holy shit, this is a large location. But it's not. It's the whole dungeon is like 5 rooms. But it seems like it's fine. Like the vampire, like finding a vampire underwater seems kind of cool. I know we've done a lot of underwater stuff, but I want to try to limit this to being probably the only underwater location I would use. This one or the other one, which is what's it called? Care Allison, I think. And if there's only really one captain, I think that would be able to do underwater, and that would be the Sahuagin Dirge, the 4-armed Sahuagin Baron. Although using a wand of fireballs underwater would be slightly less impressive, I suppose. But then do you do the same thing here? Is he just here, like, you know, looting this location? Again, I'm picturing the whole, Nazi thing where, like, Hellboy did this. Jones stuff does this, where it's like there's a whole faction of the Nazis who are just trying to go grab supernatural artifacts and using them to power up the. So in other words, it's not like a specific, like, oh, I need this one item to take over the world. It's just kind of a generic, like, hey, go find, start gathering all these magic. We've got like the army and the forces of the means, like start gathering all these magic items to help in our conquest would be the kind of quest the party has, which maybe they do look at that going like, oh, we need to stop like all these guys and gather all of these different items up, in which case I'll have thrown a lot of things for them to do. They will level up after the Styes, by the way, and reach level 9. I believe the chapter 4 start of the Tentrix layer and all that is designed for chapter 8. So they'll already be a little bit higher. If they end up doing all of these adventure locations, do I have to level them again before they make it to Tentrix himself? Hopefully not. But by the time they beat Tentrix, I'll probably definitely have to level them up to 10. In fact, where do I have notes about this? Let's see. Level 5, level. Nope, I stopped doing levels at some point where I was writing down my level plans. I did say they would level up after the Pirate Skyhold, after the final enemy, and after the Styes, which would put them at level 9. Okay, yeah, I did say begin Act 3 at level 8 or 9, which is going to be 9 now. And then probably level them up to 10. Boy, this says I'm not leveling up to 10 until after Purple Rocks. So I may have to level them up a little bit further. Because I feel like if I do all this first, then after Tentrix, which is a big boss, I should probably level them up to 10. And then there'll be 10 for going into the Purple Rocks region. And then into the temple. Well, that might still be fine. And then maybe at like the beginning of Escarl, I advance them to 11. Because I think they have to fight. They do like a fight with the Kraken or something at the before they actually make it to the ruins. So that'd be a nice opportunity to level them to 11, and then they're basically 11 for the whole Ruins of Escarl final dungeon, which is more in line with our previous campaigns, and then they would, effectively level up to 12 probably after they actually finish the campaign. So I think the pacing is still going to work for that, to include some stuff in there and then let them level up again after Tentrix and still be pretty close to what the original adventure's like. But Narino is another adventure location I could use. Underwater one. I think most of these are underwater, which is why I liked the Omen's Isle one so much, because it wasn't underwater specifically. Another chance to get a lot of magic items. Boy, there's a lot of tombs in here. And vampires are pretty strong. Ling is a CR 13. It's a very powerful opportunity for a vampire. Maybe that could be a way of doing some kind of social encounter as well. Maybe instead of looting, the villains are there to like recruit Mei Ling. That would be an interesting twist. So instead of trying to destroy, maybe they were here to loot the city. They didn't realize it was in the hand. I wonder if I could make that a whole. I could make that the surprise. Like Callus doesn't even know that. He just knows there's an ancient merfolk city down here. Uh, rumor has it it's been long abandoned. However, there may still be some treasure artifacts left behind, and one of the captains was sent to uh, seek out any lost treasures. Only Dirge would have the capability of going down there. I guess I would have to give him a bunch of Sahuagin crew, even though I already kind of figured I would never use the Sahuagin again. But this could be an interesting situation where they're here, but maybe they're having to maybe. Oops. Nope. Sorry, random number. It's not quite finish time yet. Maybe the vampire has been killing a lot of the Sahuagin, and because I do want to not like neuter my powerful Black Armada captain by having the party already show up and having him already be destroyed, but also maybe that's a cool twist. Is like they arrive and maybe the Sahuagin are all vampire thralls. Oh shit! Like they did with the was it the kobolds at the Caves of Hunger? Because they had a kobold vampire. Because any creature can be turned into a vampire. That could be cool. Okay, see, we're coming up with some cool plans here, right? So that would be a neat one, and you could put that literally anywhere in the water, because in fact it says south of Mintarn, so I could put it, anywhere in these areas. So that could be a location. We could use, I think, like I said, Dirge is I think the only one you can use. I don't think the Slot have a swim speed. No, okay. Or can breathe underwater. Yeah, so I think only Dirge's crew would be able to be down there. And then in terms of another one, I know we want to put at least one, just not at an adventure location, but I don't know how Callus would tell them where they are then. I want to be able to do one that's just at sea. Maybe it's just a question of I only tell them about the location of 3 of the 4, but I mentioned 4 of them, and then that 4th one always triggers to fight the party. So that maybe that was one of the quests, was hey, there's this other group that's been fucking up our plans. Your job is to hunt them down and take them out. So the party might not know, and maybe Callus doesn't know their location, and that would just be a fun forced fight on the party, is to do the big ship to ship battle using either any one of the other ones. And I don't have to put the Storm Maid in Omen's Isle too. I could change that one to a different one. So that would be one. So at most, if I want to use Narino and Omen's Isle, at most I would need one more location if the party chose to do that one. And it technically doesn't have to be from Call from the Deep. I could use whatever content I want that has, coastal or underwater or something, but I figured this has so much content, I should use some more of it, because I really haven't used it since we did the Pirate Skyhold. There's only 2 more that have maps, I believe. No, sorry, there's also the Sea Tower of Urfong. I do love the Sea Tower, and it's run by a Necromancer of Thay, which could be very interesting for Savra to deal with. And I love that the Sea Tower also controls and created the zombie dragon turtle that patrols the Nelanther Isles. So I may make this a location the party needs to go to regardless. Or I could make it one of the other locations that is home to one of the captains, or the party has to go to before the Nelanther Isles. I think it's located one of several strange structures dotted around the Nelanthers, occupied by Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, a Red Wizard of Thay, who fled to the Nelanthers after the Thayan operations. Dark Witch will reanimate the dragon turtle known as the Curse of Urfong. And then Tentrix contacted Tolkien and asked where they work for the Black Armada by getting the dragon turtle to sink Lords Alliance warships and merchant vessels passing through the Nelanthers. But there's got to be some way that dragon turtle also doesn't attack Black Armada ships. So that's kind of what I was going for. Do I want to have the party be protected from that by taking out the captains, or just learn the location? And then maybe one of the captains actually teases like you'll never get past the whatever it was called, the Curse of Urfong. And then maybe they can be teased about this thing. This is on because I do want to run the zombie dragon turtle attack in the ship. That just seems so fun. I realize I'm throwing a lot of things at the party for them to get to 10 tricks, but this is also such a fun level the party's at, and there's just a lot of fun things we can do. I think still with all these call from the deep locations, none of which should be very long, and I'm also I think not really running any more encounters from here on out. All the encounters will probably be narrative based and not combat based. So we can kind of zip around this map a lot easier and just get to the fun stuff, because at this level also, like any other, random monster fights or something, you could just hand wave that as being like, yeah, the party takes them out at some point. So we can just worry about all these adventure locations, which again, all of these are hopefully just maybe a session or two, pretty small. And then the one encounter they would probably have, well, I guess two encounters. One of them would be one of the captains. I want to have that be a full-on sea battle. And then the other encounter will be the Dragon Turtle, Curse of Urfong, the zombie Dragon Turtle, patrolling the Nelanther Isles. And then whether or not I want the party to go into the actual tower or not, because at this level they could probably, normally be like, oh, in order to, if it was a video game, it's like, oh, there's this unstoppable beast, we have to go to this like tower in order to deactivate it or something. But with D&D, they could be like, all right, well, we'll just fight the Dragon Turtle, which I think they would. Yeah, it's only a CR 11, and if they're on a ship, especially, I guess the bigger worry is that it could destroy your ship. I do love the idea of it like spewing zombies up onto the ship, but they could also just fight it, and then you could kind of skip the whole sea tower thing. So, but maybe I should have that be an option. Like, hey, you can try to go here. Treat it like a chase sequence and avoid the Dragon Turtle and just make it to the tower itself in order to do something there, or you can just take out the zombie Dragon Turtle, not worry about that. But either way, I'll throw up some things. So yeah, it's a lot to talk about, I know, and I've hardly done anything in actually Roll20 for this crafting session, but we're working through. I've still got a lot of exciting ideas, I guess, for Call from the Deep and how to implement all the content that's already here and just kind of organizing it in different ways, and creating some cool like choices for the players to make, and get into some little mini dungeon areas maybe, and a chance to get some cool loot and take out some of the pirate captains before actually making it to the floating layer, and basically our next big adventure site, compared to like the Styes, the final enemy, and all the large dungeon areas. So that is the plan. All right, as I mentioned, we're not doing D&D this Friday, so this is the last stream you'll see from me this week, but I will return for next week for all the crafting goodies there. Now, next week is a holiday week for the US. July 4th is Thursday. My youngest daughter's birthday is Friday. So stay tuned on what my schedule is for that, I guess. I haven't decided what's going on for that weekend, but that may be affected as well. But for now, thank you for joining me for the Crafting the Deep. Enjoy the content as always. Please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zensider, Eclectic Roleplay, Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Captain Priscilla, Counselor, Andrew, Dell, the Reldrun, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Lumpy, Spud, Sharni, David, William, Warden, Cutest Fox, Harold, Sam, Eudaimonia, LLC, and Gold patrons RPG Paper Crafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Liz Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fascatora, Scott, Ruffus, Karen, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you next week. What's on patrons? I'll see you tonight.